called what Gates is doing now Flexner Report 2.0, right? We have to imagine how this works and how this has happened over and over and over. The interesting thought I had is, okay, we've got Rockefeller oil, we have Carnegie, Mr. Steele back then, so they're these are like the pillars of what was going on in the society at that time. And they realized things were changing. They realized that things were going in a new direction and they needed to get a hold of it. So what do? They brought out the Flexner Report. They took control of everything. They redirected the medical direction to this petrochemical control. And now we're at a point again where suddenly things are changing. We're going in the technical drive, and so we're seeing it happen all over again. This is the rebranding of not only the person involved with driving it, but what's really happening in front of us and what it really means for us as individuals. And I just think historically, it's amazing how we have no sense of history as Americans. We can't reflect on how this thing, even in foreign policy or anything, over and over and over, these things continue. And hopefully your articles will really wake some people up in regard to what all of this is. And to end the discussion of your articles today, you've started a campaign that I'm happy to participate in. This is Derek's thing from Conscious Resistance. It's a fantastic drive for what we should be pointing out today. And this is in regard to hashtag expose Bill Gates. And I tag your tweet in there so we could all see it. Here is your flyer here. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about this?
Yeah, so the article ends with basically a call to action, much like James Corbett. He ended his documentary series with a really awesome call to action, and it was perfect. I actually contacted James and told him, like, I have this idea. We've been talking about how much energy there is around and frustration around Bill Gates at the moment. There's so many people you've got like the vaccine parent crowd, the soccer mom crowd that typically, they're maybe not involved in these kind of things, but they're very worried and much concerned about Bill Gates. You got people who are doing deep research like myself and Whitney and others on all these different connections and how it relates to COVID-19. There are people who for a long time have opposed Bill Gates for his connections to GMOs and Monsanto and geoengineering and other things. I just think that, and because he's not just focused on the United States, he's affected people in India, he's affected people in Africa, and he has a global agenda, and his foundation is global, that it created an opportunity to encourage people to get active. And so, yeah, we're pushing this Expose Bill Gates Day, Saturday, June 13th, and it's anywhere and everywhere. The basic idea is, we're trying to call for a nonpartisan coalition, not just of indie alternative media groups, but activists, anybody who wants to get involved. If you have a channel, you got a website, and you want to be a part of this, basically just start sharing this flyer or make your own, and in the little press release that I put together, I'm calling for people to either to share the article series that we have or to share James's documentary. That was kind of the original idea, is like, what if people burn DVDs or put the documentary on USB drives and go out and hit the streets and pass out those and pass out flyers with information about Bill Gates, or just have QR codes that link to the documentaries or QR codes that link to the articles, or print the articles out themselves, just all kinds of different actions, banner drops, whatever it may be, even if it's just online social media posting for a single day, but calling for just truly international, all around the world action to expose Bill Gates' agenda. Because I do think that, of course, Bill Gates is just the face for this larger thing. I don't think, as you were saying earlier, it's exclusively just him, but obviously he has a pretty massive influence and role to play in this. Yes. But whether it's his agenda alone or an agenda for other people that he's helping push, the point is we're at a very crucial time. And I know we've talked about this recently since I've been out here in Mexico. Like, we're at a very crucial time right now, and they're saying that they are going to start vaccinating people whether you like it or not by the fall in the United States. They're saying that they're going to, there's some estimates, they say they might have the vaccine as early as October, maybe as late as January 2021. The point is they're claiming they're going to get it. They're also saying there's going to be a second wave in the fall. They're also saying there's going to be a dark winter. There's a lot of really concerning things going on. And I believe we have a very brief window to try to expose people to this information and get them to question people like Bill Gates and overall the agendas of the people who are pushing this information and who seem to be, if they didn't, because I do think it's interesting that Gates is connected to Fauci going back decades. Mm-hmm. Gates is connected to Birx. Fauci is involved with the NIH, which gave money to China to study the bat coronaviruses. Now, indirectly, that means Gates was helping fund research into coronaviruses. And I'm not saying that means he engineered it himself, but, as far as that theory of it being a bioweapon or engineered in some way, I mean, I just think that this thing is being steered, and the way that one form of attacking what we're dealing with right now is exposing the myth that Bill Gates is this hero, because right now he has the world listening to him, and people are really following his every word and hanging on it.
Absolutely agree. It's important for us to see it, and in the nuanced way that you're describing it. I mean, it's very clear though. If we, Fauci, Gates, these people are obviously mixed up in whatever's going on right now. And as the numbers continue to fall apart, and which we'll talk about in a moment, it's interesting that all this continues to drive forward, right? The argument is that we need this because it's this dangerous thing, but suddenly it's not so dangerous anymore, but yet weirdly the actions still need to happen. And so there's very clearly something there, whether we're talking, financial benefit or simply something larger. I think we have to see this obvious, and again, the overlap, the idea of a real unelected power structure, a multinational, right? Not tied to any one country kind of a thing. Whether we're talking about funding to Wuhan coming from North Carolina, tied to Fort Detrick, or, in regard to all these different things, the overlap back and forth, which I personally, as this goes forward, find it almost impossible to think that they both are somehow not involved, right? China's government, the US government, there's too many things going on over, overlap between all these things. So hopefully everybody out there can basically create this charge to continue to look into these information, whether it pertains to Bill Gates or everything else, but start where we can see the evidence. It's obvious that there's something going on in regard to Bill Gates and his ties and his financial influence, and we need to start there. So thank you for starting this for the first part so we can get this move happening. And I like how you pointed out the idea of just the average individuals that may not be into all this, but for whatever reason are just charged up about it. And this is a perfect time for us to harness that. It's a really important time, and we just need to start asking questions. That's why I find your work so powerful, Derek. So thank you for joining me today. And I know we ran a little bit long, so thank you for sticking with me, man.
Yeah, no worries. I hope people enjoyed this conversation. I think we did a good job of getting kind of deep into the articles. And again, please do share the articles. Check out the Expose Bill Gates Day flyer, share that out there. June 13th, do whatever you want to do. Just do something to spread the word about this. And generally, the goal is to try to get people to question these things so that we can start to focus on the solutions. And we want our friends and family to maybe realize that people like Bill Gates that are being propped up in front of them aren't the people that we should be trusting. So thank you, brother.